Hi there, and welcome to our webinar, Financial Independence 101. We are going to have a very informative session today with you, and hope that you gain a lot of information from what we talked about today. So, this webinar was created by financial advisors around the country from the National Retirement Academy, and we are pleased that they are our partners and hope that you will not only get a lot from this presentation, but participate in other presentations in the future. Okay, so our objective today is to help insulate and quarantine your financial strategy by first helping you understand the major risks to your financial strategy before and eventually when this health crisis is over. So we're going to give you three simple tools to help you use at home and how you can implement this. All right, so here's our goal: how to build a financial strategy with tax efficiency and low risk in mind. So if you look at the chart here, first of all, we want you to understand where you're at now, what kind of income that you should be expecting and earning in retirement, what your current risks are, what your goals are, what the rewards are, and then what kind of improvements you can do with DIY or do-it-yourself plan, coordinating your income and your tax-efficient strategies with your investment model so that eventually and overall you can reduce your overall risk while still being able to establish and maintain your income in retirement and in financial independence. Okay, so in addition, as a bonus, we're going to show you how to be tax efficient with your retirement assets and possibly get all your Social Security tax-free. Now, I have clients right now that are not paying any federal or state income taxes and living very comfortably in retirement. So we'll give you some tips on how to do that. Okay, so we're also going to learn about what the specialists are using right now in order to make sure that you are doing the right things financially during this health crisis. So we're not going to talk about what you see all these guys on TV going through over and over again. So we look forward to giving you the right information at the right time. Okay. So we promise that there won't be any sales pitches or financial jargon, just a touch, and we're definitely not going to waste your time. So definitely be careful of people and things you see on TV and online during this time that might be offering things that might be too good to be true. And in under 45 minutes, we're going to explain, give you all the smart ideas that you can implement on your own. So here's why we're doing this. First of all, I'm going through this thing just like you are. I've been impacted directly just like you have. So I know what it means to be going through this. I'm just like you. Second, I understand where all these other financial advisors are coming from and what is going on behind the scenes. And I can give you that insight. And hopefully I'll give you a little bit today. And third, I understand what it's like to be in front of the scenes as well and what's going on. So we're going to talk about what some of these obstacles are in the market and how you can overcome them. So I've been doing this for the last 25 years that I've been working with families and helping them create strategies that will enable them to be financially independent early and live very comfortably when they ultimately decide to retire. So that is my background, that is my life's work, and I look forward to helping you. So let's talk about some of these first items and the obstacles. So number one, why are you focusing on the wrong things when it comes to the markets? So why is that? A lot of it is because of what you're looking at on TV or online. That can be one of the main issues, or you just don't have enough time. So we're going to help you make best use of your time and give you the right information. Second, how the most recent market drops might not be over, and how to position yourself properly so it doesn't significantly impact your retirement plan, um, and make sure that you don't have to cash out at any big losses. So number three is why the financial firms don't really care if you lose money in volatile markets or not, because they're making money when the markets are volatile. They want them to be volatile. We're going to give you some simple tools to implement, and we're going to show you how your retirement strategy, a passive income strategy, can hinder your retirement plan. So we're going to give you the tools to help you do that efficiently. Okay. So obstacle two, income planning. So how you can't see, feel, taste inflation before it's too late. And what are the three things you're going to spend your money on in retirement that you can really see how inflation is going, and that will have the highest inflation, so you'll know how to prepare for that and how to make sure your investments prepare for it. Okay. Obstacle three, the taxes. That's the big target on your back. And if I were to ask a question, are taxes going up or down? I think we know the answer of what most people would say. They are definitely not going down. We're not going to be having any surpluses anytime soon, and we're definitely not going to be reducing our national debt anytime soon. So you can figure out for yourself which way that's going. We're going to talk about the promises of Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and where is the government going to go to pay down this, but eventually balance the budget, which they have to at some point, and B, start paying down the debt. Well, 28 trillion sitting in your tax-deferred accounts. That money is compounding with taxes, but eventually have to be paid. So where might they go to get some of that money? That could be the next target. Okay. All right, obstacle three, taxes, which we just talked about. You can't avoid the taxes for the most part, but you can make your retirement super tax efficient. So everybody has to pay some taxes, even if it's property taxes and sales taxes, right? Maybe we can make your retirement super efficient so that we mitigate federal and state tax. But that that depends on your situation. And taxes will go up. It's not a matter of when. It's just not a matter of if. It's just when. Okay. And again, they will go up in 2026 if nothing happens from where they're at now. Okay. And by the way, this new stimulus, these checks that you just got in your account, where is that coming from? That's the national debt, and it keeps growing and growing and growing. Okay. All right. So let's talk about our agenda. Market volatility, how to avoid it. Okay. We'll talk about a bucket strategy that you can implement yourself. We're going to talk about inflation, taxes, and go over some case studies. Okay, so market risk. So when it comes to market, we focus on two things. We just focus on return and we focus on risk. And you should focus more on the risk than the return. Okay. It's not what a lot of people like to talk about the risk. We want to talk about the returns first, but it's more important that you lose less than make more. Okay, and we'll show you that. All right. So this is just a small chart talking about what happens if you miss the rallies, what happens in the S&P. Average return for the last 40 or so years is a little over 8%. If you miss the best periods of that, you made 4. If you miss the worst, you made 14. And if you missed the best and the worst, you made 9. So there's a quick little rundown. So you basically made it pretty close to the same as if you didn't try to time it at all and missed the rallies and the drawdowns. So let's talk about what does it take to recover when you lose. So if you lose 10, you got to make 11 to get that back. If you lose 30, you got to make 43 to get it back. If you lose 50%, you got to make 100% to get it back. So this just gives you an idea. You don't lose 20 and make 20 and break even. It doesn't work that way. Okay, so this gives you an idea of what it is in reality for you to make back anything you lost. That's why it's so important to mitigate the losses. Okay, so the average investor is a passive investor. It means they buy and they hold. And so our question is, why are you willing to lose 50% to get 50%, but over the long term, you only average 8.7? Okay, it doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense, but let's talk about that. Okay, so how do we measure this risk? We're going to look at the bear market, the big bear market, the 2008 financial crisis. Now we saw in February, March that we had 2020. We had almost a flash bear market. The market went down really quick, and then it came back quick. So the idea is if you can't stomach the losses in a particular investment, you shouldn't be in that investment. You should be in that one as well. You can withstand that volatility. Okay, so stop comparing yourself to what the S&P 500 is doing. You're not the S&P 500. Your goals don't relate to the S&P 500. So don't constantly keep comparing what you're doing to that. Okay? You can keep it in mind, but you have to come up with your own financial strategy. Okay, remember the markets are not consistent. They move up, they move down, and we don't know when they do that. But we're looking for more consistency. So if we're going to shoot for an 8% return, we want to pick things that have a good average, that are in that neighborhood and have less volatility. Okay, and we're going to show why that doesn't work with a typical 60-40 stock mix. Okay, which is what the average investor has out there, 60-40 stocks and bonds. Okay, so next slide, portfolio diversification and a buy and hold strategy. Okay, allocated U.S. market 40%, foreign market 21, that's your 60, global market 32, global and U.S. 32 plus 8, so U.S. 32, global 8, that's your 60-40 right there. Okay, and that's a typical allocation. So buy and hold strategy shows what $100,000 did through the last 16 years. Round up at 162,000, went up, went down, went up, went down, and that's where it ended up. That's a 3% inflation adjusted rate of return, taking into account for inflation. Okay. So let's look at these returns, and the same returns just flipped around in different orders. Okay. The same average returns can produce very different results depending on when those down years occur. So you'll see at the end of these 24 years, Mrs. Blue made over $1 million, Mr. Green made 0. The returns all match up. They had the same returns, they were just mixed up differently. And you can see that Mr. Green started with negative returns right off the bat, had good years going forward, whereas Mrs. Blue had positive returns starting and then had the negative returns. But that makes a big impact. Is making sure that you minimize these negatives, or at least have good positive years in front of them before you encounter any negative returns. Okay. All right. So recapping all this, let's look at the risk before reward. Understanding volatility and our sequencing, creating a strategy to allow our portfolio to recover and utilize the tools at our disposal, and the risk we may have. And then obviously, or not obviously, you have to test it. Okay. All right. So what's our next item on our agenda? It's this invisible inflation. So what are the inflation costs? Travel. When most people stop working, they want to increase their travel. Obviously, it's going to be a lot easier once we're out of this health crisis. And those costs obviously will go up when you're retired or you're not working. Food and entertainment might go up, might go down. Just depends on what what you're planning on happening with your spending. And then healthcare. I think we can pretty much agree that healthcare, as we get older, is going to increase. That's just we're just not as healthy as we were when we were young. So those are some major costs that you'll encounter when you get older. All right. So one of our key points is that we know that the market will give us consistent returns. It's going to go up, it's going to go down. We can't predict it. We know there's going to be inflation, right? Inflation might be 1%, might be 3%. We don't know. We just bet that it's going to happen. Okay. and we need to look at inflation, what the key things that we're going to be spending on. So we want to build this retirement plan to include inflation. And the thing that may play the biggest role in inflation is going to be coming up in much larger proportions, and that's going to be taxes. Okay, so taxes. That is literally the biggest target on our back. And what are the factors? The national debt is a big factor, Social Security. And then what can we do about it? The Roth conversions could be very important. The Secure Act is going to be important. And we'll take a look at all of these factors. So this ever-increasing national debt, I think all of us know approximately where it's at. It's well over 25 trillion. And all these new stimuluses that we just had in 2020 have added to that part of it as well. Eventually, we're going to have to pay the piper. We all know that. Okay. All right. Here's our national debt. And like I said, 23 trillion at the end of 2019, over 25 trillion at the end of 2020. Okay. All right. So, what is the proportion of the national debt? What's added to it? Many of you may know this already, but half of it's Social Security and Medicare. It's just the way it is. And if you look at this chart, when in 1970 we were only at 20%. In 2021 we're pushing 50%, and it could go up to 60 if we don't do something about it by 2080. But it's definitely over half for sure. And that's a population issue. We have not made the proper adjustments as a country to make sure that we're preparing for that. And as you can see, Medicare gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Social Security stays about the same proportion. Okay, so how do we pay for this? We print more money, which causes inflation. The U.S. Defaulting, that's not an option. We're the strongest country in the world. Reduce the benefits, that may happen, might have to happen, but the easiest, most likely scenario for politically and that people could swallow is probably increased taxes, and that's what we'll talk about. Okay, so 28 trillion. We mentioned this before. Sitting in these retirement accounts, where do you think the government's going to go to try to get these taxes? That's where they're going to go. They're going to increase the taxes on your retirement accounts. Okay, and probably on Social Security, the taxes are going to go up too. So if you look at, depending on your income, half of your Social Security might be non-taxable. And then as your income goes up, then that changes. It goes from 0 to 50% to eventually to 85%. Okay, so you can get more money for Social Security by creating a much more efficient strategy by pulling your money out. And if you didn't know already, required minimum distributions are now 72 instead of 70 and a half. So you need to understand how these required minimum distributions work and what the tables are. And you can see that you multiply this factor at the end of the year's balance, and you will get what your required minimum distribution needs to be. You can do it yourself, or if you have a retirement account, a lot of times your custodian will do it for you. Okay, so let's give an example. 74-year-old Eldon has 100,000 as IRA. His distribution factor is 23.8. If we'll go back, 74, 23.8, you can see right there. And 23.8 of 100,000, that factor, he has to take out 4,200 for his distribution. So as you can see, 42%. Okay. All right. So how do we take this money out, make it efficient, and make sure we pay, we reduce our Social Security tax? Okay. So this gives another example. Joe is a retiree, say 576,000 is the IRA. Between Social Security and his pension was enough to live comfortably. He didn't need to spend this money that was in his IRA, but when he had 72, he has to take it out according to that table that we just mentioned. Okay, so let's break it down. Pension's $2,300 from his post office career. Social Security is $2,450. So if you add those two together, that comes to $4,700, or about just under $60,000 a year. Okay, but his gross income, because the Social Security is only half taxed, looks more like $42,000 for tax purposes. So his taxable income after the standard deduction is $14,000, puts him in the 10% bracket. He owes $1,400. Okay, so that's how that works. Okay, now taking out this RM required minimum distribution, that changes things. His RMD based on that 500,000 is really 22,000, so he's got to take that out. And he's already getting a pension, and he's getting Social Security. So now we're looking at gross income of 75,000, taxable income of 47,000. He's in the 12% bracket. Now he has total taxes of 5,700. Okay. All right. If we go back to the previous slide, he owed 1,400 without the RMDs. And now he owes 5,700. That's a $4,000 difference. Okay. And he didn't even need the money. He didn't, but the government made him take it out. Okay. It seems completely backwards that he has to pay $4,000 more in taxes when he didn't even need the money. Okay. And then what if those taxes increase, which they probably will? Okay. So how do we look at a plan that looks at these taxes? Move the taxes based on your time frame and your agenda, and understand the time frames that the taxes will increase. Go back to 2017 in 2026 because there's a sunset clause that's provision in the tax code. Okay. All right. So what's a solution? Roth conversion. Okay. Definitely consult your tax advisor before you think of doing something like this. But the Roth conversion will take money out of your IRA, reduce your RMDs, put it in a Roth, take money out of your taxable IRA, put it in the Roth IRA, and as soon as it goes in the Roth IRA, it's tax-free. Okay. Now you have to pay some taxes potentially when you take it out, or depending on where you are, your tax situation, you may not have to, but this needs to be considered every single year. Okay. Again, you're moving the money from your tax-deferred accounts, 401, IRA, 403B, pay the taxes now, or maybe you don't owe any taxes. Move it to the Roth IRA where it goes tax-free and distributions are tax-free. Okay, so we want to move money in the right direction, not the wrong direction. So is a zero tax bracket achievable? Okay, strategize, find it out. I've worked with clients, like I just said, yes, it is achievable. They don't pay federal and state taxes. Okay, if you're in the right bracket with your RMD, with your Social Security, and a lot of people don't even have a pension now, and your house, your mortgage is minimal, you could be owing no taxes. Okay? That's where we want to strive to get to that point. Okay. Okay. So what are specialists doing in times like this? So we look at the risk first, then we look at the return. We run a risk analysis with a tool like Riskalyze, which we have access to. We use a multiple bucket strategy for your income, so you don't just put your income in one place. You put it in a couple different places and reposition this according to what's most tax efficient for you. Make sure we're factoring in inflation into this, and then we look at our tax opportunities, okay, Roth conversion, etc. Okay, and then we put the plans together. Okay, all right. Most importantly, make sure we're monitoring this every single year to make sure it's efficient. We use Riskalyze to monitor, make sure the portfolio doesn't lose that much based on your risk tolerance and what you are willing to handle as far as volatility. We give ourselves enough time to make changes, and we look for something similar or ask how we can get access to this, to something like Riskalyze. Okay, most importantly, monitoring. Make sure we update this monthly. Monthly is so important. Check out the market movement, look at potential fluctuations of risk and reward, track our income distributions, and look at our needs and our tax situation. Okay? It's got to be looked at on a regular basis. Okay, so Success for Financial Independence. You can download a copy of this to help if you need it. Make sure you contact us for that to create your Success for Financial Independence plan. And here's what it looks like when you test. You're going to calculate your income expenses, pension income and Social Security, look at your money from these retirement accounts, like we said, 401, IRA, risk and reward, and we're going to look at our taxes. Okay, so finally, let's look at a case study of Bill and Sally. Okay, they want to retire in 6 years. They want $100,000 after tax to live comfortably. They have $670,000 retirement. They have Social Security and a pension for their retirement income. Okay, here's their current risk reward. Right here, they've got 41% in fixed income and about 56% in U.S. and international equity. The return is about 5%. The risk is 11. Okay, so how do we improve that? Right? Let's see, how do we improve that? So we run a Monte Carlo, which is we run 1,000 simulations of what's the probability that they're going to achieve their goals, and it comes out to 26%. And we can run this probability for anyone. Okay? So 26% is not good. We don't want them to have to deal with the 26%. We want to make sure that we're improving that. Okay, so that's what this wealth graph shows. Okay, so we do make some changes in the do-it-yourself model. We change, in particular, the Social Security start date. U.S. fixed income 40%, international equity 10, U.S. equity 50%. So we just reduced, by reducing some of these risks from the previous example, we got our return up a little bit to 7, reduce our risk to 10, okay, which is what we're looking for, higher return, lower risk, and it increases our probability in retirement to 79%, which is better, but we want to get to a higher percentage. And if you see here in this example, we want to look for at least 85% or better. Okay? So let's look at one more example. So what is all this telling us? We don't need a lot of risk. We don't need a really high return. We just need good average return, minimal volatility. So what's the smart retirement portfolio plan? Okay. We have a managed income strategy, 43%, and a managed growth strategy, 55%. We slightly reduce our return, still really close, 6 versus 7, but we take our risk down from 10 to 7. Okay, and what does that do to our probable situation? 99% success probability. Okay, that our hypothetical couple is going to be able to retire comfortably after doing our Monte Carlo simulation 1,000 times. Okay, so that gives you some idea. That's what we're talking about. Small tweaks, make sure we have a strategy, make sure we're doing a proper monitoring, and build our plan correctly. Okay, so we can start it by downloading our workbook and filling it in right away. Okay, so this is what we're going to offer you, that we will do your complementary strategy for you, understanding where you're at now, finding some improvements so you can do it yourself, or if you're having trouble building this plan yourself, we can help you build it, and we can help you implement it as well, okay? If you qualify. All right, so if you want even more help and you want us to help build this successful financial independence plan for you, our exclusive offer to you for attending this class, you can set up a retirement strategy with us, complimentary. We can build this plan for you. There's no cost, there's no obligation. I do ask a couple things, okay? I want you to make sure you gather all your information so that when we talk, we can make it as efficient as possible for both of us. We'll give you the information that you need and make sure you keep your appointment. It's really important, okay, for you and for us, okay? And the appointment must be within the next 2 weeks if you want to have the plan be complimentary, okay? So we're going to give you this risk analysis. We're going to take a look at your plan where it's at. We're going to look at a do-it-yourself plan with some optimized adjustments. We're going to show you a 401k IRA optimizer so you can get a higher return, lower risk. And we're going to talk about how much you need to have in these different buckets, different strategies, show you how you can implement it on your own. And we're going to show you what it looks like if you're having it implemented with help. Okay, so all this will be done by me here in San Diego. And we'll set up a Zoom call, virtual face-to-face, and we're going to talk right through it and get you in the best position that you possibly can be. Okay. So Here's a little bit about myself. I've been known as the financial independence coach since I've started. Coaching is my passion. That's what I do. I coach families. This is my family right here. Um, we're big into setting goals, running the race. I'm a triathlete, completing the race, training properly, um, training hopefully without injury, and then reaching our goals. So um, tri- the triathlon really helps me in particular in the goal setting for every area of my life, and it helps me coaching other people how to do their goal setting. Retirement and financial independence strategy goal setting is over a long-term time period. Triathlons, you can train in 6 months and be ready for a triathlon, and you get a quick, you get results. So we help you set a bunch of small goals that you can achieve, which builds momentum of achieving those big lifetime long-term goals. Okay, so our motto is financial independence is closer than you think. We want every um, family we work with to achieve this financial independence, but it starts with you. You got to make it happen. You got to make that call. You got to set up that appointment, and you got to keep it and talk through it. You need a coach. You need the coach. You need the information. And you need a strategy. Those are the three things. That's what has to happen for you to make this successful. Okay? Really appreciate you taking the time. Really enjoyed talking to you today. Look forward to talking to you um, on a Zoom call, hopefully coming up here in the very near future. Stay healthy, stay safe, and best for a happy and healthy new year.